Is it possible to summarize the 24 books of the Tanakh, or the Jewish Torah or Bible, as well as the 2,711 pages of the Talmud, the Jewish oral law, which is just the beginning stages of an attempt to understand the Torah and all of its ramifications, combined and alongside an inconceivable number of Jewish Sfarim, Jewish books throughout the generations and including today? Is it possible to take all of that and summarize it into one clean pasuk or sentence from our Torah? There have been many attempts to do so, and today I want to share with you those attempts. And I think the conclusion that we get to of what is Judaism's greatest principle, summarized in one sentence, will surprise you. So let's learn together and see how this one sentence can impact the way that we live our lives every day. Shalom, my name is Rabbi Noach, and welcome to my Torah Thoughts channel, where I delve into the areas of Judaism, mental health, and personal growth. There are many places in the Talmud where discussions have been ongoing in deciding what is this great principle. So I want to look at some of these principles in the writings of the Maharal Miprag, who was in the 1500s analyzing different places that the Jewish people or the rabbis from the Gemara, the Talmud, discussed these great principles. So first of all, there's this idea of a klal gadol b'Torah, as I keep alluding to. A klal means a principle or a great idea, but it can also mean a crown. Essentially, what is the crowning principle, the greatest idea of the Torah, the one that is the most significant of what it means to be a Jew? So Ben Zoma puts out a very compelling case that the great principle of the Torah is the one that you would think, really, the one that is the most commonly said words in our Jewish Torah, the Shema Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. Listen, Israel, Hashem is our God, Hashem is one. The oneness of God and all of the implications about the unity of creation, the oneness of humanity, what it means to be aligned with one source, and how, the moral implications of that, that's all found in this one idea. We're not going to elaborate, but this one God, of course, everything stems from that. The Torah was given by this one Hashem. But there are other candidates. Rabbi Akiva and actually Ben Nanas, both different places together, say, Ve'ahavta l'recha kamocha. No, the great principle is the golden rule that you might hear in common language, common culture. Ve'ahavta l'recha kamocha. Love your neighbor as yourself. Of course, it's important that there's one God, but what is the implications? Is that we need to be more loving people. And it's not just about a relationship with the divine, it's about a relationship with others. Love is the animating force of creation, and our love of others is also a reflection of the fact that we love God, because Hashem, we are all Hashem's children, and when we love Hashem's children, we are showing that we love Hashem. So that's the second principle vying for our attention. The oneness of God in the first place, or the fact that we need to love each other, that is the second one. Ben Azai actually reduces this. He says, no, Zeh Sefer Todos Adam, the most important principle, and these are all from the different parts of the Chumash, the 5 books of Moses. He says, no, the great principle is this story of humanity. Zeh Sefer Todos Adam. And underlying this is an idea that we're all created b'tselem Elokim, in the image of God. It's of course really great and high and holy if we can learn to love each other, but basic foundation is the fact that we come from this one God, and we're all one family, and we all need to respect, have the human dignity that we're all created b'tselem Elokim. We need to have respect for the inherent divinity of each person, the God consciousness, the God image of the soul of each person. Before we get to love, let's at least respect each other on a basic level. And that's Ben Azai's great principle, that at the end of the day, it's derech eretz. It's the sense of common respect and human dignity. That's the great principle. That's the klal gadol that everything else stems from. But there is another one vying for our attention by Shimon ben Pazi. And he says, Esakeves echad ta'aseh v'boker, ve'esakeves hasheni ta'aseh bin ha'arbaim. Offer one lamb in the morning and one lamb towards the evening. That's Ben Pazi's great principle of the Torah. There's this idea of korbanot, sacrifices. There was a sacrificial system bringing korbanot to God. We're not going to get into all of what that means, but we know that the sacrificial system then was a form of prayer service. Today we say that the prayer services that we have are almost a replacement to the sacrificial services. Again, not going to get into the implications and what that really means, but there's this idea that we offer one sacrifice in the morning and one towards the evening. And this is the great principle of the Torah. And so what's the answer? We're seeing different answers as to what the klal gadol is, but Torah, in this midrash, what is the great principle that they said? Rav Ploni, which means an unnamed person. Rav Ploni just means unnamed person. The halacha keben pazi. The halacha, the answer in this midrash, is that Ben Pazi wins. Ben Pazi wins. Not the Shema Yisrael, not the oneness of God, not love your neighbor, not have respect for human dignity. It's bring the morning and bring the sacrifice towards the evening. Now, I think that one of the reasons why, and this is a very Jewish idea, is that you can have the greatest principles in the world, the most important, soul-stirring principles, first foundations, oneness of God and all of what that means. The v'ahavta l'orecha kamocha, love your neighbor, have respect for human dignity. But what matters is that you take those principles and you turn them into something. You turn them to an action that reflect those values in this physical world every single day. And that's why it says halacha keben pazi, because the idea of Jewish law is let's walk with these values in everyday life. And you do that by doing them, practicing them in small every day. So for example, an easy example, respect for human dignity. How do you do that? Maybe every day when you walk down the street, you say hello to the people. There actually is a mitzvah to say shalom to people on the street. We won't get into the intricacies of that, but there's this idea. Every time you walk down the street, say hello to people. Don't just look down, say hello. That's taking respect for human dignity and saying, I'm going to put that into practice. When I wake up in the morning and I go outside, I'm going to do that. Modeh ani lefenecha, the first words that we say in the morning, or the Shema, is a way to reflect God's oneness. V'ahavta l'orecha kamocha, maybe you call your loved ones sometimes in the morning, sometimes in the evening. You do things, you do favors for people, but you try to do them the more regular they are. And of course, there are things that you want to do once in a while, helping someone move. But the more regular these values move onto the heart, implant into your heart on an everyday basis, that's the great principle. Because whatever else you do, whatever these other high and lofty principles are, if they're not reflected in daily life, they are not going to have a place, a kli, a vessel for that great light to come down. That is really Judaism. And this also helps us just focus on one day at a time. The psalmist says, King David says, Baruch Hashem, blessed is Hashem, yom yom ya'amas lanu. Day by day, he's carrying us. You want to be connected to Hashem in the carrying of everyday life? Yom yom. Figure out ways to find him every day. That is what Judaism is all about. It's not about just one thing. It's not about just one principle, whether it's the highest principle of God or loving other people or loving humanity or having human dignity. It's about how those values get reflected in the reality of everyday life. And that is the genius of Judaism, how we've taken our values and made them real. Go down and really think about it. These are what I really value on a high level. How do I live these every day so that I become better and better yom yom? Rabbi Sachs sums all of what I just said up in a few words. Rituals create new habits of the heart that can lift us to unexpected greatness. The greatness isn't in just the powerful ideas, but it's in how those ideas become rituals, which are habits, spiritual habits, create habits of the heart that will make you into a more loving person connected to oneness of God, the oneness of humanity, and human dignity. I hope this was helpful. Please like, share, and subscribe.